Mike Prendergast, we had said that Castres were, could be a tricky enough tie if they played to their potential at the weekend. It didn't pan out that way, but in fairness, I don't think Munster gave them a chance to settle in the game. They kind of closed down all the opportunities. They kept it tight, and they didn't allow Castres to get any sort of a score up. And Munster were just efficient, ruthless, really good at the basics, and really, really just closed out the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly what you said there. I think the word to describe their performance just it was ruthless. It was very workmanlike also. I remember after maybe 20 minutes, Jerry Flannery was being interviewed and he was just talking about grinding them down, and the opportunities will come. And that's exactly what they did. I know Cass came out all guns blazing, and Munster just kind of, stood up to it. Cass obviously took 3 points after I think it was about 10 minutes, but it was the only points they scored. So it showed exactly how, I suppose, how ruthless Munster were on both sides of the ball, from defence and an attack. And, in the conditions, I thought, with everything that had went on as well, to put 48 points on a team that are fourth in the top 14 is a very good outcome. Especially, as I said, there was distractions, obviously, with the game for both teams. But obviously, Munster dealt with that, looked like they dealt with it better than Cass did. And I just thought from a point of view of just their fundamentals were so strong when you look at their set piece, scrum and line out, maul, their
Yeah,
breakdown.
funny you should touch on the scrum and line out. I went through the stats after. The scrums were 13 from 13. The lineouts were 12 from 14. So
Yeah,
that's a
yeah, yeah.
serious efficient set piece.
That's a serious outcome, absolutely. And it was just I suppose it was what happened after it as well, because Munster went forward in so many set pieces, and that just as Jerry alluded to, that brought him down. They just seemed to win all the collisions. It was interesting to see the type of team Cass picked. They picked quite a strong team on paper, left a couple at home, but they still had a very strong, did a very tall line out. So that was an area they're obviously going to look at, but I think Munster dominated that also. And I just thought from a collision point of view, Munster just won every collision again on both sides of the ball. They were able to create that quicker ball in attack. Um, and obviously their first up hits just slow the ball down. And when you saw Cast, when they got into multi-phase, into 4 or 5 phases, they looked a small bit lost, because they were trying to play off slow ball. They were trying to put a small bit of width on it because they were getting no change up front. And every avenue they went down, they were just shut down, I think. So it was very, as I said, workmanlike and professional performance by Munster, considering all that had went on as well, with the changes and whatnot.
One guy that really stood out for me, not just weekend, but over the last few weeks, was Keith Earls. This guy is really, really hitting a purple patch of form, and Joe Schmidt must be absolutely delighted to see this guy coming into Irish camp on the back of the last couple of months. Really, he's been electric.
Yeah, Keith is in serious form at the moment. Always a good player in my books, but he's particularly on form at the moment. He's just electric. Every time he gets the ball, there's a buzz. It's his pace over the first few yards and his footwork. And I think the Simon Zebo's try kind of epitomised the cast as well, and the defence and what Munster had done at that stage. They were looking like they were really out on their feet. They exited. Um, and Keith saw just that obviously they had a poor kick chase. There was fractures in the line. Keith exploited that with his footwork and his out and out pace, and obviously fed Simon, and it was a great score from counter attack, albeit uh, against a poor kick chase. But that's how confident he is at the moment, just to look at those little fractures and take them on and have a go. And that seems to be Munster over, especially over the last kind of month or two. They've had that bit more confidence, as I said in the last game against Racing. They've had a bit more confidence to have a go, and why not with the talent they have out there, especially um, counter attack is a great possession to attack from, and especially as I said, he was able to identify just that there was those fractures, there was that space, and who was in front of him? It was Cabello the 6, and he just, basically burnt him on the outside.
He did. He
Very
did
good score,
something. He did something very similar for his try against Racing the last day too. When he looked up and he spotted
yeah,
a loose forward and a second row, and he just went, "Okay, I'm gone through that," and boom.
absolutely. But it's having the confidence of doing it as well, and when you see that mismatch is on, and a guy with his pace and power and footwork, that's what you'll be encouraging, all day long. Because as I said, it's the only time, I suppose it's a great time in the game where the defense can be disorganized, and there can be you can find props and locks out in the edges after a number of multi phases that we saw, as you said, against Racing, and in that game from a poor kick chase, where Castres were really tiring at that stage. And I remember was it last year as well against Stade Francais, similar situation off a kick chase on a wet day, and Keith just broke in his broken field running, just straight up the middle around. I think it was Pascal Pape, so he has that ability when he has that bit of space, and the kick chases him well. But yeah, very exciting times for him and for Irish rugby and for Joe Schmidt, because I suppose he's never probably played as well over the last, I suppose, month, 6 weeks when you look at him.
Yeah, I would actually, I'd go out on a limb and say that I think he's in better form now than he was in '09 when he got picked for the Lions. He's absolutely, he has that, I suppose, that knowledge that can only come with experience, but at the same time, his pace it doesn't seem to have diminished as he's got that bit older. Not that he's old, but he really seems to have made the best of the experience of playing with Munster for all that time, coupled with his natural talent. Of course, none of those gaps and those spaces and those opportunities are possible without the hard work of the forwards who tie in the defences, bring the defences in tight and leave that space out wide. And if you look at this Munster pack now, there's quite a lot of dog in that Munster pack with the likes of John Klein, CJ Stander, Peter O'Mahony, the front rows, John Ryan, Kilcoyne, James Cronin. I think sometimes we underestimate that this is a dogged front five, a dogged back row that can really, they mightn't be the biggest physically, size-wise in the competition, but they certainly punch above their weight.
They do. Maybe they're not the biggest, but they're so explosive. You can obviously see the strength and conditioning and all that coming through in them as well. I just think you hit the nail on the head there. The amount of players you call out, you look at it as well. It's about depth. It's about guys pushing each other. Everyone wants to start. You look at as you spoke about, you look at the guys that aren't in the squad at the moment. Even they can't make the 23, 24, and that's, I suppose, reflected with the 18 going well as well. So there's huge competition, and by all accounts, talking to some of the lads, that was one thing, I suppose, that Razzie, when he came in at the start, going back last year, was that competitive edge, having 3-4 guys in every position, because it just pushes standards, where it be in the gym, out in the pitch, whatever it be, So, and that's kind of starting to come true now. But as you said, and I keep saying about this Munster team at the moment, they've got serious pace, they've got serious ball players out wide now. But as you said, it's only what the ball is being given, and Munster just have that. They just seem to win collisions, even though they're not the biggest of men. But they technically, and just that will as well. And I spoke about at the start, about their fundamentals. Your fundamentals being your set piece, especially, and you have a good scrum, you have a good line out with a maul, that wears teams down. It gives you front foot ball, and they did that as well. And what it does is it turns teams into be ill disciplined as well. And I suppose that was really high up on what happened on Sunday. I thought Castres were so ill-disciplined. It was the penalty count was massive. It was huge, but that came from pressure from Munster, and a lot of the pressure came from up front. You get tired, guys. Make bad decisions defensively, and that's what the Munster pack are doing at the moment. They're grinding teams down. They're squeezing teams, and now they're starting to have a cut when they realise that ball is there, when it's quick ball. And as I said, they've got the ball players. You've two outstanding passing centres that both can get you huge gain line as well. So you've a variety of things in attack, and obviously what's outside them then with, as we spoke about Keith and Simon and Andrew Conway and guys like this. And again, the list goes on behind them with Ronan O'Mahony and Darren Sweetenham. So competitiveness in every position is huge. But I agree with you. I think it starts up front.
Yeah, and one guy, not to single anyone out, but one guy I've been really impressed with, and I think has brought a different element to Munster's back row, is Chris Clota. This guy is just an explosive ball of energy, as much in defence as he is going forward. He really makes a nuisance of himself for the opposition, and there's a bit of needle in him as well, which I like. You like to see that in your pack. He's not afraid to mix it. He's not afraid to get stuck in. I've been impressed with not only his performance, but I think he adds that bit of attitude on the field as well that the guys can buy into.
Mm-hmm. I suppose he's your old school 7 that maybe had went out of the game for a while and it's starting to come back in. And I've always been a fan of it because I just think that, you look at him and you look at his game, and okay, his turnovers are very effective, but it's the unseen work of slowing the ball down. I know you could probably see it, but it's even just getting that arm in the ball, getting a leg in, slowing it up for 2 or 3 seconds, and that allows your defence to get in place, get off the line, and win collisions. So a lot of the defensive work comes down to what he does, along with Peter and Caesar and guys like that at the breakdown. But as you said, he's good on both sides of the ball as well, because he's so short to the ground. He's a good little carrier. He looks for the hips and gets in there and gets low and presents that ball. So he's something different, and he's a kind of guy that I think players will follow, because I'd say he's a guy that probably doesn't say a huge amount, but he does what he says on the tin, and you can see by him he's producing every weekend, and again, you look back, guys like Tommy O'Donnell breathing down his neck, what a player to have him behind as well, or if Tommy plays for Cloud to come on, so that for me, it just pushes standards, it pushes competitiveness. But he's brought a new dimension, and he's brought something different to Munster for sure.
Yeah, we saw, I suppose, Ulster have a disappointing weekend away to Wasps. Leinster, for all their all their exploits and their excitement in the pool stages, the reward for them going 6 for 6 is a home tie against Saracens. And I mean, we saw what happened to Munster in the 2012 season. They went 6 for 6 in the pool. They put 50 points on Northampton in round 6, and they got bounced by Ulster in the quarterfinals in Thomond Park. So, the pool stages count for nothing in April when we come back and revisit this competition. And I think of all the teams that had a home quarterfinal, the top seeds, Leinster, have probably got the toughest quarterfinal.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, especially considering, I suppose, Saracens had went through a poor patch there, obviously, for a couple of months, albeit with a lot of injuries, with their top players out. Those guys are coming back. If England have a good Six Nations, how much confidence that can carry in, because obviously they'll have 6 or 7 of the English players, key players, coming back. But I suppose from Leinster's point of view, it is at home, and to win it, you're going to probably have to beat the best teams in it. And for me, obviously, and not just for me, but I know across Europe they're the best team. It goes without saying at the moment. And their team in form. Again, we talk about having depth in positions. They've got serious depth in every position as well. But there's a lot of water to go under the bridge between now and the quarter final. There will be, I'm sure, injuries, bit of form. Traditionally the internationals have adapted very, very well the week before. They come back, are well rested, and they're ready to go. So, and then it becomes just a one-off game, a quarter final, and depending where it's on. But obviously from Leinster, it's on at home, but you could never count out a team like Saracens. I think behind everyone, it's kind of, there's that fear that they're still in it, because everyone knows the reasons they went through. They're human at the end of the day, went through a bit of a patch, managed to come out of it. And, it's things like that make you stronger, I think. And it was a bit of an eye-opener to Saracens. And, sometimes you can take your eye off the ball if you're that successful at times, I'd imagine, as a group. And it probably refocused individually and collectively, and as a staff and players and everything. And I think they'll come back, all guns blazing. But as I said, the Six Nations could have a lot to do with how they go forward after the Six Nations competition.
That brings us on to, I suppose, Munster's opponents and Toulon. And I was watching some of the commentary or some of the the stuff online where some people were saying would Munster have been better off not scoring the 4 tries, not getting the bonus point, and having La Rochelle. To me, I think Toulon are a better option for Munster than La Rochelle. No, they know more about Toulon, and I think I would prefer Toulon at home than La Rochelle. Maybe I'm wrong. What's your take on
Mm.
that?
It's a hard one, really, to be honest with you. I don't know exactly the answer to the question, but I suppose from a point of view of experience in the knockout stages, you look at La Rochelle, they've never been that far, but they're a kind of team that they don't really care. They just go out and play. They know what they want to do. They send their forwards around the corner and play off quick ball. They've lightning backs, half backs that are good, technically good passers. So you they're kind of, from that point of view, they're a bit of an unknown quantity. How they will react or adapt to a quarter final away in Thomond Park will be something very new for them. Thomond Park have probably been there before. Sorry, Toulon have been to Thomond Park before. Toulon have been in these situations, albeit not all of them, because they've changed a lot of their team over the last couple of years. For me, I'd say probably a better one is to maybe to get Toulon, all right, because I just think La Rochelle, when they're on form, when they're on the front foot, they've been massively impressive in both conditions, in both competitions. Albeit the last couple of weeks in the Champions Cup, conditions themselves have been quite difficult, so they haven't been able to probably play the game the way they like to. And from a Toulon's perspective, I was just looking at them there recently, and they've won 8 of their 15 league games. They've lost 7. 7 of them have been basically away from home, so they haven't travelled that far. I was quite impressed with them in the way they fronted up against Scarlets, in the Scarlets, on a poorish night where the Scarlets were extremely good in the first half. And I thought, you know what, Toulon showed a bit of character in the second half. Again, they went back to their power game, which is very effective to them. I just think, again, a lot of things will happen between now and then. They actually don't lose too many internationals. They maybe have 4 or 5, including Bello, uh, Bastero, Bonival, and Geraldo, the captain. That's probably it. And Bonival was only called in this week. So from a point of view, they mightn't lose too many to the Six Nations. And also, you're allowed register, as far as I know, you're allowed still register 2 players when you get to the quarter final. So you've Feketawa to come in there, who hasn't been playing in the Champions Cup because he only came in October, and he's the guy that can give them so much. Look, the problem I think down in Toulon is trying to find their best, I suppose, backline, because they've so many options. They've so many options. There's so much power. Tusafoa, Radradra, guys like this. It's just it's power that. But I think one area that Munster can go at them and get at them is up front. Their pack, for me, haven't fired on all cylinders this year. Although they did show a bit more on Saturday against Scarlets, as I said. But I think, I still think it'll be. There's a lot to happen between now and then, and we'll know more closer to the time. But it'll be an interesting game for sure.